Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCopel. The breaking news right now. NASCAR champion Kyle Busch dead at 41. Tonight, we look back at his life and what we're learning tonight about what happened.
We can't have Ebola cases coming here.
New cases of Ebola and new anger tonight as people set fire to a treatment center dealing with the outbreak. And back here at home, new rules to keep the disease at bay. What all air travelers to the U.S. must now do if they've been through the higher risk parts of Central Africa, as an inbound flight is diverted to Canada. Also developing the weather threats to your holiday weekend travel and a risk of flash floods tonight. Rob Marciano with the timing and track. And news tonight on that new weight loss drug, patients shedding pounds at unprecedented levels. Our chief medical correspondent, Dr. John LaPook, on what you need to know.
And now Columbia begins its radio tour of Europe's capital cities.
And signing off after nearly a century, we say goodbye to CBS News Radio. Only in America tonight, the men and women making sure our military heroes get the real honor they deserve.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel.
And good evening. We begin with the news just coming in that NASCAR driver Kyle Busch, 41 years old, has died suddenly today after what his family described as severe illness. One of the greatest racers of all time, a record 234 National Series wins. Busch had earlier dropped out of all activity this weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, including the crown jewel, the Coca-Cola 600. His family later confirming that he was hospitalized instead. And now this terrible news. He is survived by a wife and 2 children, and we all have so many questions tonight. CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen joins me now. He's been looking into it. Tom, good evening.
Good evening to you, Tony. Well, this is a devastating loss for the entire NASCAR community. Kyle Busch was an absolute legend in the sport, and here is what we know so far. Busch was a 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion and died today at the age of 41. The Busch family said earlier Kyle had experienced a severe illness resulting in hospitalization and was undergoing treatment. He last raced on May 17th, 2 days after coming off another win in Dover, Delaware. He was born in Las Vegas, and his career spanned more than 2 decades. Many people calling Busch a champion among champions. Now, just a short time ago, a joint statement was released from the Busch family, Richard Childress Racing, and all of NASCAR saying we are devastated to announce the sudden and tragic passing of Kyle Busch. They went on to say a future Hall of Famer. Kyle was a rare talent, one who comes along once in a generation. He was fierce, he was passionate, he was immensely skilled, and he cared deeply about the sport and fans. They also added his sharp wit and competitive spirit sparked a deep emotional connection with race fans of every age, creating the proud and loyal Rowdy Nation. And after one of his recent races, Busch reportedly said this: "You never know when the last one is going to be, so cherish them all. Trust me." Now, the details surrounding Busch's death remain unclear, but we do know that he is survived by his wife and 2 kids, as you said, Tony.
Tom Hansen with the breaking news tonight. Tom, thank you very much. We move on to other news tonight, including fear that an Ebola outbreak in Central Africa is gathering speed. Today in Congo, people set fire to an Ebola treatment center after being stopped from retrieving a body for burial. The flames forcing at least 3 infected patients to momentarily flee back into the community. And here in the U.S., a stepped-up effort to prevent Ebola from entering through our airports, with one flight diverted to Canada. CBS correspondent Ian Lee is covering that part of the story from Detroit. Ian, good evening.
Tony, tonight the Department of Homeland Security is ordering U.S. citizens and permanent residents who've traveled through the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, or Uganda within the past 3 weeks to enter through Washington, D.C. and Dulles Airport for advanced screening. A mistaken passenger caused travel chaos Wednesday after Air France boarded an individual from the Congo on a flight from Paris to Detroit, according to U.S. officials.
We can't have Ebola cases coming here. So you saw we're now not allowing people to come in.
U.S. entry restrictions aimed at limiting the spread of Ebola forced the plane to divert to Montreal. The passenger, who was examined by a quarantine officer, had no symptoms and immediately returned to Paris. Deborah Mister and her partner were on the flight and frustrated by the lack of information.
The captain announced that we were being diverted. Suddenly, all the flight attendants had face masks on. So that was also very concerning.
According to the World Health Organization, the number of Ebola cases in Africa continue to rise, with over 130 deaths and more than 500 suspected cases. How prepared is the United States to treat an Ebola outbreak?
We are prepared if called upon. This is something that we train year-round for. There are many specialized centers across the country that are really prepared for any high-consequence infectious diseases.
In the heart of the Congo outbreak, frustrated residents prevented from retrieving the body of a loved one set fire to this Ebola treatment center. Missionary Dr. Peter Stafford, who treated patients, is the only American confirmed with the virus and is critically ill. He is now hospitalized in Berlin, where his family are among 6 Americans being monitored for symptoms. Another U.S. doctor is under observation in the Czech Republic. Tony, it's important to note health experts say Ebola can only spread by someone showing symptoms. And tonight, we know the Congolese passenger on that Air France flight was symptom-free.
All right, Ian, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Looking ahead to your weekend, a record-breaking 45 million Americans are expected to be on the move, and it could get messy, especially in the east, but also across the south and into Texas. Meteorologist Rob Marciano tracking it all.
It's been a stormy week for travelers heading into Memorial Day. Flash floods catching many motorists by surprise late yesterday, prompting water rescues across the country. This dramatic video shows a family in Indiana being pulled out of a creek after waters quickly rose around them. In Georgia, passerby George Brathwaite waded into floodwaters to help a woman stranded, taking refuge on the roof of her car.
That's what God led us to do, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's what we did. That's what we wanted to do.
From major highways to local roads, drivers and driverless vehicles got stuck in the water. According to Waymo, this unoccupied vehicle stopped after it encountered high water. In New York City, water everywhere, above and below ground. And air travelers beware this busy weekend. More than 5,000 flights have been delayed and more than 350 canceled so far, including at New York's LaGuardia Airport, where crews are working to repair the sinkhole that closed one of the runways on Wednesday. The runway could reopen by tomorrow. But that doesn't help those like Sally Marchetto and her family, whose flights were canceled.
We ended up getting an Airbnb in Queens for 6 of us, so it's hard to get rebooked when there's 6 of you.
Frustrating air travelers, no doubt about that. So let's peg out what the trouble spots will be going through this holiday weekend. A lot of moisture across the southeast, and that's where it's going to stay. So especially tomorrow, more humid, more downpours. And I-75, I-85, I-95, they're all going to be issues. I think Atlanta tomorrow. I think probably Memphis, Covington, even Minneapolis might see some problems. And on Friday, on Saturday, all that rain moves into D.C., Philly, New York. So those airports will have issues. And then another surge of moisture coming in through the southeastern quarter of the country as we head towards Monday. Notably cooler over the weekend. Temperatures into the 50s come Saturday afternoon in New York City. That's a hard cry from the 90s we had just a couple of days ago. So you'll feel that warming up a little bit, but still the threat for seeing some showers on Monday. All right, part of the reason the southeast needs the rain is because they didn't have a hurricane last year. Here is the forecast from NOAA for this hurricane season, and noting El Nino, they think we'll see a below average season for hurricane activity. We certainly hope that forecast verifies. Tony?
All right, Rob, thank you very much. The Justice Department, if you hasn't heard, has a new $1.8 billion fund designed to pay people who allege that politics played a role in their prosecutions under the Biden administration. It's a settlement without precedent drawn up by Mr. Trump's own appointees after he sued his own government. And a lot of people outside of that circle have questions. Here's senior White House correspondent Weijia Zhang.
In a tense meeting on Capitol Hill, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche tried to sell skeptical Senate Republicans on the nearly $2 billion anti-weaponization fund. One big question was whether those who were convicted for assaulting law enforcement on January 6th would be compensated. The DOJ has not ruled it out.
What do you want to hear from Todd Blanche?
About the payout pot for punks? Not a lot.
Look, under what circumstances would it ever make sense to provide restitution for people who were either pled guilty or were found guilty in a court of law?
Among those found guilty, Enrique Tarrio, who was sentenced to 22 years in prison for charges related to January 6th, including seditious conspiracy. The former Proud Boys leader received a pardon from President Trump and now says he plans to seek restitution.
For the things that I went through and my family was put through, yeah, I think it might be in the tens of millions.
Metropolitan Police Department officer Daniel Hodges, whose head was pinned against a doorframe during the attack, said no one involved should receive money. Hodges has filed a lawsuit to block the fund.
These people, they should not be rewarded by the government for their attempt to overthrow the government. They tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power.
Senate Republicans also signaled they wouldn't support $1 billion to enhance security for Trump's White House ballroom. The president was asked if he is losing influence with them.
I don't know. I really don't know. I can tell you, I only do what's right.
Tonight, there's also a bipartisan effort in the House to block that anti-weaponization fund. Republican Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick and Democrat Tom Suozzi introduced a bill that would prohibit federal dollars from being used to pay any claims submitted. Tony.
Weijia, thank you very much. Big developments today tied to that fraud scandal in Minnesota. The former leader of Feeding Our Future, the nonprofit behind a $250 million child nutrition scheme, was sentenced to nearly 42 years in prison today. Amy Bach is her name. She was also ordered to pay back nearly all the money. After the hearing, the FBI announced new charges against 15 additional people allegedly involved in another fraud scheme worth $90 million. One of those people, the FBI said, jumped from a fourth-floor balcony to avoid arrest. He was later seen on camera limping into hiding. And today, a Virginia judge dismissed charges against a former assistant principal accused of failing to prevent a school shooting. Prosecutors alleged Ebony Parker ignored warnings that a 6-year-old had a gun before that student opened fire, wounding his teacher back in 2023. But the judge said Parker's alleged negligence did not add up to a crime. Tomorrow, we're saying goodbye to what existed before any of this television stuff existed, CBS News Radio. After almost a century, our friends over there are signing off for the very last time. Here's senior national correspondent Mark Strassman with a look at the gift that was.
This is London.
And this was CBS News Radio.
I'm standing on a rooftop looking out over London.
On the front lines of history.
This is Trafalgar Square.
Ed Murrow during World War II.
The noise that you hear at the moment is the sound of the air raid sirens.
Walter Cronkite on the JFK assassination.
A Secret Service man was heard to shout from the car, "He's dead."
Before television, radio was the town crier of the modern age. And CBS News Radio's trusted voices included Charles Osgood.
I'll see you on the radio.
I always loved about radio the fact that you have to paint the picture. There's no help from a camera.
Prosecutors say they will retry them.
Steve Kathan has anchored the CBS World News Roundup since 2010.
Is there one story that stands out to you, personally?
I mean, 9/11 stands out just because it was a day like no other day.
I'm Lou Miliano. A third World Trade Center building has now collapsed.
We were on the air 4 and 5 times an hour. Information is changing moment to moment. And plus, there's a personal sense everybody has because, you know, your country is under attack.
Tomorrow, CBS Radio News will sign off for the last time.
And what do you think America will miss most about it?
It's been around for a long time, or really an American institution is what we're losing here. And I think people will notice that.
It's been a reliable companion for generations. Now this American institution will lose its voice. Tony?
Mark, thank you very much. Still ahead in a moment, the new weight loss drug being called a game changer. What you need to know. A new weight loss drug, so new it's not even on the market yet, is showing promising results in trials, doing much more than what current medications can. Here's CBS News chief medical correspondent, Dr. John LaPook.
In phase 3 data on Eli Lilly's weight loss drug, retatrutide,
Over 80 weeks, participants lost on average up to 70 pounds, about 28% of their body weight. That compares with up to 15 to 21% for Wegovy and Zepbound over a similar period of time. Unlike currently approved GLP-1 medications that work on one or two targets, retatrutide acts on 3 different hormones that affect appetite and metabolism. But side effects for the once-weekly injection may be a barrier. At the highest dose, 11% of people dropped out of the trial before it ended because of problems such as gastrointestinal and nervous system symptoms.
And Dr. John LaPook joins us now. Dr. LaPook, thank you very much for being here. People will be excited hearing your report. When might the drug be available?
Well, the results still need to be formally published and peer-reviewed, and Eli Lilly says it expects to present the drug to the FDA for approval by the end of the year.
If it's approved with this drug, with all the other drugs, are we talking about the end of obesity?
No. So these are powerful drugs, but we can't forget about prevention. Back in 1960, about 13%, that's 13% of Americans were obese. Now that number is closer to about 40%. So we have to think about factors like ultra-processed food, our sedentary lifestyle, and socioeconomic and environmental factors, so we can try to figure out how do we stop future generations from becoming obese in the first place.
What's underneath it? Dr. LaPook with the perspective. Thank you very much. Up next, journey to the top, the new milestone just reached on Mount Everest. We're back with a what would you do moment out of Massachusetts. A car heading south crosses the median and into the northbound lane. One SUV swerves, another vehicle gets absolutely crushed. You see it there. Everyone remarkably is expected to be okay, but Massachusetts is now looking at ways to reduce these wrong way crashes. The cause is under investigation. Look out. A new milestone on Mount Everest. A record 274 people reached the summit on Wednesday. Quite a crowd up there. Thousands have climbed to the highest point on Earth since they first did it in 1953. Never more, though, in a single day from the Nepali side. And we have new video tonight of a rescue in the UK of a dog that fell off a cliff into some rough waters. Bailey, a black lab, was with her owners last week when she stumbled down the rocks, and it didn't look good, but a rescue team navigated a dinghy close enough to get Bailey back to her family. And when we come back, only in America, the volunteers preserving a musical tradition honoring our nation's military veterans. We're back. Memorial Day is Monday, of course, a day you might hear a bugle playing a piece of music you recognize but don't know much about. It's called taps, and tonight, only in America, a story about an effort to guarantee that all veterans, when they die, are properly honored with it. It's a piece of music played at the funeral of nearly every veteran of our armed forces.
There's nothing more sacred and honorable than somebody standing there playing 24 notes from the heart.
But believe it or not, many military funerals are in fact served by a digital bugle. The bugler just pressing play on a tiny hidden speaker. Marine veteran Mark Paradis.
We've seen instances where the batteries have not been changed, and so the unit will cut out halfway through the call. The digital bugle is a digital insert inside of a bugle, and we've seen that insert actually fall out of the bugle during a ceremony.
That's why in 2012, Paradis founded Taps for Veterans, an organization aimed at recruiting volunteers to play taps live. Volunteers like Jim Ambrose.
Anybody in the military would rather have the live taps. It's a shame that, there's not enough musicians out there in the military.
Ambrose got involved after hearing a digital bugle at his own father's funeral.
I would have played if that's what it was. I didn't know it was going to be a fake horn with a recording device.
Taps for Veterans now has more than 1,500 volunteers, many willing to drop everything and drive hours to honor a veteran.
It is the most honorable, sacred, intimate thing that a person can be invited to within a military funeral honor. And it's just our pleasure to be invited and have that opportunity to honor our veterans with taps.
You don't need to be a veteran yourself to volunteer for Taps for Veterans. And Mark says they've got particular shortages in rural areas, plus Texas, California, and the Dakotas. Meantime, from all of us here at CBS News to all of this nation's veterans, thank you. That's another day in America. I'm Tony DeCopel. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.